Miracles are not just stories from the past, they are living realities that continue to unfold around us every single day. When you truly stop and look, you will realize that God's fingerprints are all over your life. Every sunrise is His reminder that His mercy is new again. Every breath you take is evidence that His grace has not run out. Yet too often we live unaware, rushing through days, distracted by problems, missing the gentle ways God is working behind the scenes. We wait for dramatic, visible signs, when in truth, the quiet moments of grace, protection, and provision are miracles too. We look for lightning, but sometimes God shows up as a whisper. You see, a miracle doesn't always mean something spectacular. Sometimes it means you made it through a situation that should have broken you. It means the bill was paid when you had no idea how. It means the doctor said one thing, but God had another plan. It means the depression that tried to drown you didn't win. The anxiety that tried to silence you lost its power, and the pain that once seemed permanent began to heal. Every breakthrough, every moment of unexpected peace, every door that opened after rejection, that's God at work. Thank God miracles still happen. But here's the truth: many people miss what God is doing because they have already decided what a miracle should look like. They want God to move according to their script, to show up on their timeline, to answer in a way they understand. But God's miracles rarely follow our logic. He doesn't always send what we expect. He sends what we need. When the Israelites were trapped by the Red Sea, they never imagined the water would split in two. When the widow had only a jar of oil, she didn't expect it to multiply until every vessel was full. When Jesus fed thousands with a few loaves and fish, nobody saw that coming. That's how God works. He surprises you so that you'll know it's Him. Miracles are not only about changing circumstances, sometimes they are about changing you. The process you're enduring may be the soil where your miracle is growing. You might not see it yet, but something is shifting. God could be strengthening your faith, deepening your patience, or positioning you for something greater than what you asked for. And the truth is, if you only thank God when the miracle happens, you miss the power of faith. True faith thanks God before the answer comes, while still standing in the dark, believing that light is on its way. Sometimes God's miracles come disguised as delays. You pray, you wait, and nothing seems to move. But that waiting season might be the miracle in progress. God doesn't work according to your calendar. He works according to your character. He wants to prepare you for what He's preparing for you. And while you think He's being silent, He's actually arranging every detail with perfect timing. Don't confuse silence for absence. Don't assume stillness means nothing is happening. Miracles often take root in unseen soil. Gratitude is what keeps your heart tuned to the rhythm of God's work. When you thank God for what you have, your spiritual eyes begin to open to all that He's already done. You stop asking, where is my miracle? And start realizing, my whole life is a miracle. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it's a declaration of faith. It says, God, I may not understand, but I trust you. I may not see the answer yet, but I know you're working. And in that attitude of thankfulness, you start noticing that God never stopped moving. You just stopped noticing. The same God who turned water into wine is still turning pain into purpose. The same Jesus who opened blind eyes is still opening hearts today. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead is still alive in you. The miracles didn't stop. We just have to start paying attention again. Don't get so caught up in worry, disappointment, or comparison that you miss what God is doing right now. Sometimes your biggest miracle is not what's changing around you, but what's changing within you. So today, pause and look around. Think of where you've been, what you've survived, and how far God has brought you. You're still standing, and that itself is a miracle. You didn't make it this far on your own. God carried you through storms you thought would destroy you. He provided when you didn't know how. He made a way when you couldn't see one. That's not luck, that's divine mercy. Life is a series of moments where God shows His power, His grace, and His mercy, often in ways we do not expect. Yet many times we become so overwhelmed by what is wrong that we forget what is right, that we are still here, still breathing, still loved, still chosen. That is not random. That is not coincidence. That is the mercy of God at work. Every day is a fresh opportunity to recognize that the same God who performed miracles in the Bible is still moving among us today. The problem isn't that God stopped doing miracles. It's that many have stopped seeing them. We live in a time where people chase signs and wonders, expecting the supernatural to appear with flashing lights and dramatic moments. But most of God's miracles don't announce themselves. They unfold quietly, woven into ordinary days, in moments of peace after chaos, in forgiveness that heals a broken heart, in provision that arrives just in time. Sometimes the miracle isn't in the change of your circumstances, it's in the change of your heart. When you should have given up, but you didn't, that's a miracle. When you should have lost faith, but somehow kept believing, that's a miracle. When you made it through storms you thought would drown you, that's God showing you that His hand never left you. You see, we often look at miracles as exceptions, but to God, miracles are expressions of His love. Every time He wakes you up in the morning, He's saying, I still have a plan for you. Every time He closes one door, it's because He's preparing to open another one. Every delay, every detour, every disappointment can still lead to divine direction if you let faith guide your steps. The greatest tragedy is not that miracles have ceased. It's that our hearts have become too distracted, too busy, or too doubtful to notice them. God is moving in your life right now, in the things you take for granted, in the blessings you overlook, in the prayers you forgot you prayed. When you start to thank God, not only for what you've seen, but for what you haven't yet understood, something shifts inside you. Gratitude unlocks spiritual vision. It allows you to see beyond frustration into faith, beyond confusion into clarity. Because faith doesn't always see the outcome. It trusts the source. The moment you begin to thank God in the middle of your struggle, you stop living as a victim of circumstances and start living as a witness of His faithfulness. You start seeing that even the things that didn't go your way were still used by God to prepare you for something greater. Many people miss their miracle because they stop believing too soon. They give up right before the breakthrough, stop praying right before the answer, lose hope right before the light appears. But God's timing is not like ours. You might think He's late, but He's right on schedule. Every waiting season has purpose. Sometimes God holds back the miracle because He's shaping your faith to handle it. Sometimes He delays because what you're asking for is smaller than what He plans to give. Don't let impatience blind you to the miracle in progress. Miracles are not always instant. Some grow slowly, like seeds planted in faith that bloom in God's time. It's easy to thank God when everything makes sense, but true faith is thanking Him when nothing does. When you lift your hands and say, Lord, I don't see the way, but I trust you anyway, heaven takes notice. That's where miracles begin, not in comfort, but in surrender. God performs His greatest works when your strength runs out and your heart still chooses to believe. You may feel like you're surrounded by problems, but if you look closely, you're actually surrounded by grace. You may feel like the story is ending, but God is still writing new chapters. Don't let fear or disappointment blind you to the beauty of what God is doing right now. Maybe the door that closed was protecting you. Maybe the person who left was part of the plan. Maybe the struggle you're in is building the strength you'll need for your next season. God never wastes pain. He transforms it into purpose. And when the time is right, the miracle you've been waiting for will appear so clearly that you'll say, now I understand why it took this long. There are moments in life when we look around and wonder if God is still moving. Moments when prayers seem unanswered, when dreams feel delayed, when hope starts to fade. Yet even in those silent seasons, miracles are still happening. The problem isn't that God has stopped working, it's that we've stopped watching. We've stopped paying attention to the quiet ways God shows up in our lives. We've allowed disappointment to blur our vision and doubt to silence our gratitude. But if we could only pause and look closer, we'd see that God has been at work all along, guiding, protecting, healing, and preparing us for something greater than what we expected. Every heartbeat you have is a miracle. Every morning you wake up is proof that heaven has not forgotten you. The fact that you've survived what was meant to destroy you is evidence that God's hand has never left your life. Sometimes the greatest miracles aren't the ones we pray for. They're the ones that happen when we least expect them, in the middle of storms that should have ended us. You may not have seen the waters part like Moses, or the blind receive sight like in the Gospels. But if you've ever been given peace when you should have had panic, or strength when you felt too weak to go on, you've experienced a miracle. The truth is, miracles aren't always loud. They don't always come with thunder or fire. Sometimes they come quietly in the stillness of your heart, in the moment when you feel God whisper, I'm still here. We often think miracles are about big dramatic events, but God specializes in the simple. He turns ordinary moments into holy encounters. He takes what seems small and makes it sacred. He uses the ordinary to show His extraordinary power. That's how He works, subtly, gently, faithfully. And if you aren't careful, you might miss what He's doing right in front of you because you're looking for something bigger. There are times when God's miracles come disguised as challenges. We pray for deliverance, but He gives us endurance. We ask for answers, but He gives us growth. We want the mountain to move, but he gives us the strength to climb it. And when we finally reach the top, we realize that the miracle was never just about the mountain. It was about what he built inside us along the way. God doesn't just perform miracles around you, he performs miracles within you. Every time you forgive when you could have hated, love when you could have given up, or keep going when you feel like quitting, that's divine power at work. It's easy to thank God when the miracle is visible. When the job comes through, when the sickness is healed, when the prayer is answered. But true faith thanks him in the waiting, in the confusion, in the silence, because faith isn't about seeing. It's about believing that God is good, even when life isn't. Sometimes the miracle is not the situation changing, but your perspective changing. God shifts your focus from, why is this happening to me? To, what is God teaching me through this? That shift in vision is where miracles begin. God's timing is never random. He knows when to open doors and when to close them. He knows when to bring people into your life and when to remove them. He knows when to say yes and when to say not yet. Every delay is divine direction. Every closed door is protection. And every unanswered prayer is a setup for something better. If you can learn to thank God even in the moments you don't understand, you'll never miss what he's doing. Because gratitude keeps your eyes open while doubt keeps them closed. So many of us are waiting for something extraordinary to prove God's love. But the truth is, his love is proven every day. You are still here. You still have purpose. You still have breath in your lungs. That alone is enough reason to thank him. Miracles are happening in the spaces you overlook, in the safety of your family, in the peace that fills your spirit, in the strength that keeps you going. Don't take them for granted. Every time God wakes you up, every time he gives you another chance, every time he forgives your mistakes, that's a miracle. Life has a way of testing your faith, of pushing you into moments where you wonder if God is still listening. You pray, you wait, you cry, and sometimes it feels like heaven is silent. But even in those quiet, uncertain moments, God is moving. He is arranging the pieces, working behind the scenes, and shaping the outcome in ways you can't yet see. Just because you can't trace his hand doesn't mean you can't trust his heart. God never stops performing miracles. It's just that many of them happen in the background, in the stillness, in the moments we overlook. When you pause long enough to look back, you begin to realize that every step, every delay, and every disappointment carried a hidden blessing that led you right where you were meant to be. Miracles are not only the big, breathtaking acts of divine power, they are also the quiet mercies that sustain us each day. When you woke up this morning, that was a miracle. When you had food to eat, people who care about you, and strength to keep going when life got heavy, that was God at work. Every answered prayer is a miracle, but so is every closed door that protected you. So often we only thank God when he says yes, but sometimes his greatest miracles come through the times he says no, because he knows what you cannot see. He knows what could have destroyed you if you got it too soon. He knows the end of your story before it even begins. And when you finally see the full picture, you'll thank him not only for what he gave you, but also for what he withheld. You see, faith Faith is not about understanding everything. It's about trusting that everything is working together for good. That's the miracle of faith itself. God's plan rarely fits your expectations, but it always fulfills His purpose. Maybe you've been praying for a breakthrough, waiting for something to shift, wondering why it hasn't happened yet. But remember this, the silence of God is not the absence of God. He is never still. He is strategic. He is aligning the right people, preparing the right opportunity, and softening your heart so that when the miracle comes, you'll be ready to receive it. Sometimes the greatest miracle is how God changes you in the waiting. You prayed for the storm to stop, but He gave you peace in the middle of it. You asked for the mountain to move, but He gave you strength to climb it. You asked for the pain to end, but He used it to build your purpose. That's what makes His miracles so powerful. They don't just change your circumstances, they transform your soul. They make you stronger, wiser, and more grateful. They teach you to depend not on what you see, but on who God is. It's easy to miss what God is doing when you're focused on what hasn't happened yet. You may look at others and wonder why their lives seem to move faster, why their prayers are answered sooner, why their blessings look bigger. But comparison blinds you to the miracles in your own life. The truth is, you are already standing in the middle of what you once prayed for. You've already seen God's faithfulness again and again in ways you might have forgotten. Don't miss what He's doing right now because you're so focused on what's next. Every season has a miracle in it if you look with eyes of gratitude. Gratitude is the key that unlocks your awareness of God's miracles. When you start to thank Him for what you have, instead of complaining about what you lack, your vision changes. You begin to see blessings in small things, in laughter, in friendship, in healing that happens slowly, in peace that doesn't make sense. Gratitude doesn't just change how you see your life, it changes how you experience God. It opens your heart to receive more of His presence. And when you live with a thankful heart, you will never stop seeing miracles because you'll realize they were always there. Never forget that God is not done working. Just because something looks impossible doesn't mean it is. The same God who made water come from a rock, who raised the dead, who turned despair into joy, that God is your God. He hasn't lost His power and He hasn't forgotten His promises. Your miracle may be closer than you think. One act of obedience, one moment of faith, one prayer of surrender could be the turning point where everything changes. Life is full of moments when God is quietly working in ways we cannot see. Sometimes He parts the sea for us, and sometimes He teaches us how to walk on water. The truth is, miracles are not always loud, visible, or dramatic. They are often subtle, hidden, and deeply personal. The greatest miracle may not be the one that changes your situation, but the one that changes your heart. Every day that you wake up with breath in your lungs and hope in your spirit, you are witnessing the miracle of God's grace in action. But in the rush of life, many people miss what God is doing because they are too focused on what hasn't happened yet. They wait for something extraordinary, forgetting that the ordinary itself is filled with divine power. You may not have seen the sea open before you, but you have seen doors open that no man could shut. You may not have watched manna fall from heaven, but you have seen provision come when you didn't know how you would make it through. You may not have heard God's voice thunder from the sky, but you have felt His peace calm your fears when everything around you was falling apart. That is the miracle of God's presence. Quiet, steady, unshakable. He doesn't always announce Himself with noise, but His fingerprints are everywhere. Sometimes the reason people fail to see miracles is that they are measuring them by size instead of by significance. They think a miracle must be massive to be meaningful, but that's not true. The miracle might be that your heart kept believing when it had every reason to give up. The miracle might be that you found strength to forgive someone who hurt you. The miracle might be that you're still here, standing, breathing, smiling, even after everything you've been through. Every act of endurance, every spark of faith, every moment of undeserved peace, that's the supernatural hand of God at work. God's miracles often begin in moments of desperation. When life feels empty, when strength is gone, when answers don't come, that's when His power shows up. You may feel like you're at the end of your rope, but that's exactly where grace begins. God never allows an ending without planting the seed of a new beginning. You may not see it yet, but something is shifting in the unseen realm. What you think is a delay is often preparation. What feels like silence is strategy. God never wastes a waiting season. He uses it to build your faith, shape your character, and set the stage for the miracle to unfold at the perfect time. Faith is not about seeing everything clearly. It's about trusting. Even when the picture isn't complete, it's believing that behind every unanswered prayer, there is a purpose. Sometimes God's greatest work happens in places of discomfort, in the struggle that humbles you, in the loss that teaches you, in the confusion that draws you closer to Him. Miracles don't always come wrapped in comfort. Sometimes they come wrapped in lessons. And when you look back, you'll realize that the pain you endured was the very path that led you to the miracle you needed. When you choose gratitude instead of frustration, when you choose faith instead of fear, when you choose worship instead of worry, something begins to shift inside of you. Gratitude opens your eyes to the goodness of God that's been there all along. You start to see that miracles are not just something you receive. They're something you live in. You realize that every moment sustained by His grace is a miracle. The fact that you didn't lose your mind when life fell apart is a miracle. The fact that you still have peace in your heart when everything else feels uncertain is a miracle. God is still in the business of doing what only He can do. He is still healing, still providing, still guiding, still transforming lives. But if you spend all your time focusing on what hasn't happened, you'll miss the beauty of what He's doing right now. Stop waiting for something big to happen before you thank Him. Start thanking Him in the small, quiet moments, because that's where His presence is most often revealed. Miracles aren't always about change in the world around you. Sometimes they're about transformation within you. You are living proof that miracles still happen. You have overcome storms that should have broken you. You have seen hope rise from ashes. You have watched God bring light into your darkest days. So don't lose sight of what He's doing. Don't get caught up in what you don't have or where you're not yet. God is working in ways beyond your understanding, and your story is far from over. Conclusion, thank God miracles still happen. They are not just events. They are reminders that He is near, that His love is constant, and that His power never fades. Don't miss what God is doing just because it doesn't fit your expectations. Look closer. The miracle might already be in motion. Keep believing, keep thanking, and keep watching. Because when you live with faith and gratitude, you won't just witness miracles, you'll walk in them every day. The same God who started your story is still writing it, and the next chapter might just be the miracle you've been waiting for.